Happy Reading Month! Hello everyone and welcome to another Dalian Reads Reviews where I'll be discussing with you a new book. Hello and welcome to the channel. Oh my god, I realized that I've been MIA for the last 2 months. So happy belated New Year guys. I hope you've been doing well for the past 2 months. It's the 3rd month already. Just now I decided to do a book review. I know I'm a bit late, but it's just that I needed some time off to focus on myself, focus on my mental health, and just focus on my life in general. I am back to stay. I'll be doing more reviews, I'll be filming more, I promise. But it's just good to be back here on my channel filming and doing a book review. The surprising thing is that I thought that people forgot about me. I was like, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna film and post this, but then subscribers actually increased over the past month. So I'm just very thankful for the people who actually subscribed even though I haven't posted in a while. So thank you so much for tuning in, thank you so much for caring, and I hope I do not disappoint, and thank you for waiting. Thank you so much. The book of the week was The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennet, and it was a contemporary / fiction history / fiction in general. So the book basically talked about twin sisters Stella and Desiree Vigins, who lived in a small peculiar town called Millard back in the 60s. Of course, Millard is a made-up town, but in this book it's very much real, and the residents there aren't really your typical people. They're basically light-skinned black people who decided to make this community and live in it, and the light skin you were, the better it is. Like, you would fit in if you were that shade of color. So basically the twins grow up together there. They've witnessed this horrific event that happened in their childhood that really messed with their selves. And when they're like 16 years old, they decide to run away from home to the big city, away from this weird light-skinned town and away from their mother. In the big city, they rent an apartment together and decide to start their lives there. They worked odd jobs just to make rent. When Stella landed a job in this prestigious office, I want to say, and from here the story starts to unfold. Stella goes missing one morning and she is not there anymore, and leaves her twin sister to fend for herself in the big city. Years later, their lives change and somehow collide together through their daughters. Alright, so let's discuss the writing style real quick. Brit Bennet actually won the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2021. It was shortlisted, this book was shortlisted, and she actually won. This book was very popular last year, and I just read it this year as my first read, really. I was very curious about it and I decided to pick it up, and it turned out to be pretty good. The writing was really well done. I liked her style, her storytelling was really good, and I liked that the time jumps did not really interfere with the way I perceived the story personally. I think that she did that brilliantly. So yay to that. I enjoyed the writing style. Plot-wise, this book discussed a lot of topics, and topics that are really interesting and I really wanted to know more about. The first thing that it talked about was the lynching of their father, the twins' father. I didn't talk about it when I spoke about the book, but that was like the huge event that really shook the twins up. And it's not really a strange thing that black people went through back in the day. Lynching and killing them off for like the silliest thing was very common, sadly. So to see it happen and for such young girls to witness such an horrific event that happens to none other than their father is just very heartbreaking. So there was that. And then there was the case of passing. So passing was not an odd thing for me because I've seen this word tossed around recently, and I've seen a movie on Netflix. I've seen like the trailer. I didn't watch the movie yet, but it was actually called Passing, and it made me really curious about it. So I looked it up and I understood what passing meant. So passing was discussed in this book more because one of the characters decided to cross over to the white people's territory. It's basically a black person is so light-skinned that they can get mistaken for a white person. So they take advantage of that and decide to cross over and pass as white. And the whites would never find out about it. It is very interesting because this book also discussed colorism and how light-skinned have more advantage in surviving the world of the whites than the darker shades. And it's just really, really sad because you have all of the colored people's shades in this book and you get to see the difference, and it's very eye-opening and it's really educational if you think about it. If you don't know about such topics, this book opens your eyes to such things. Yeah, other than like the sisterly bond that they had and their identity struggles throughout the book and the way they grew up with such struggles, it followed them to their daughters as well. It really showed you, like in the community of Millard where light-skinned black people lived, prejudice they had towards their own kind, like they hated their own kind as well. So they were in the middle. They weren't white but they could pass as white, but they were black but they hated darker shades as well. It was like really sad to see, and it's even sadder because some people are like that. It's just, but the plot in general was very interesting to go through. The issues that were taken in this book were really interesting. They would keep you interested throughout the book, like you would want to know more, you would want to see what happens. There were a lot of heartbreaking scenes in this book. It's just like, it really showed you how much passing does not necessarily mean that you yourself believe that you passed, because there was always the struggle with this character, the one that passed, where she was constantly afraid of being found out. When she gave birth to her own daughter, she was scared that she would turn out darker and she would get exposed with her husband and her white community or whatever. And like even throughout raising her daughter and throughout her life as a white woman, you can still see the struggle with her identity, because that wasn't really her. She wasn't white, but she passed as white. So there was this really conflict between her white self and her black self, and it was just not mixing, and it will remain a struggle throughout her life. This book also discussed domestic abuse in marriages, which is very icky to read about a bit. I felt so bad for the twin that ended up with a domestically violent person and had a daughter with him. It was really heartbreaking because she envisioned this big life for herself, and this is what she got from the person that she loved the most. I'm glad that she got rid of that. She took her daughter and left. Thank heavens. The fact that this was in the book, it was very, very tragic. So aside from the twins, the book also had side characters that were really interesting. For example, Cerie's love interest was called Early, and he was this boy that she liked, back when she was a teen and when she still lived in Millard. Only issue with Early is the fact that he was of darker skin. He wasn't really black, but he was darker than the norm in Millard. So her mother always disapproved of him, but later on he proved to be the better man, and he actually remained with her. His job was really interesting though. He would just like sniff around and do some detective work, but he wasn't really a detective. So he was definitely an interesting character in the book. Another interesting character was Stella's daughter, Kennedy. She had some spunk in her, and she was definitely the rebel in this whole story. Another interesting character was Reese, who was Jude's boyfriend. Jude was Desiree's daughter. But anyway, Reese was very interesting because he had such a dark and twisted background, and thank God he got rid of that. But of course, he carried with him a lot of scars. So I know that I said that I loved the plot, and I actually liked the book in general, but I was kind of disappointed with the ending because it was not "and they lived happily ever after." No, it was just like "and they lived." And I think the author was aiming for that sort of ending, for it to be very realistic. And reality isn't always sunshine and rainbows and someone just got swept into the sunset. Just that with this sort of plot, I thought that we would get that, to be honest. So I was kind of shocked and disappointed that it was very realistic. And I'm sure that a lot of people had the same reaction that I did. But then when I backtracked, I was like, you know what? It was supposed to be this way. Sometimes life just doesn't work out the way we thought it would be. Sometimes it's just about moving on, and maybe moving on means that the ones you loved wouldn't move on with you. Sometimes it's just you just living and moving forward. It's about that. And I think that is what the author was aiming for with the ending of the story, which kind of also felt like an open ending. There are like millions of possibilities to what happens next, because as I said, and they lived. So if this was the type of book that you would think that you would pick up and enjoy, then go ahead. As for me, I actually enjoyed the book very much. It was just the ending that was a bit iffy for me, but other than that, the book was great, the plot was great, and the writing was great as well. So yeah, I guess that is it for today's review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you stick around for next week's review. And until next time, see ya and bye!